well, welcome everybody. Today we have Victor Reynolds and we have Sue Tucker joining us to present around virtual and synchronous environments and synchronous opportunities for learning and teaching. We've got Sue Tucker up next, who's one of our TELedvisors, and she's a bit of a jack of all trades. She works in the vet space as a vet developer, and previously trainer and assessor and quality officer as well. So, and she's going to talk a little bit about her experience with TWalks. Sue, are you ready to present?
I am. Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Victor. That was really interesting. Can I just get a thumbs up that people can hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you very much. So to start off, what's a TWalk? Most of us here are probably familiar with the concept of a Twitter chat, where we all sit wherever we happen to be and jump onto Twitter for an hour and chat about whatever the topic is, facilitated by a moderator with a number of questions over the period of an hour. So a TWalk is a Twitter chat that takes place whilst walking. And I came across this back in May and saw people talking about a TWalk. So I thought, yeah, this looks a little bit interesting. And these are mostly our colleagues in the UK at various organisations. So I decided that I would keep an eye out for this, and the walk itself was happening on May the 31st. So different universities were putting up their own ideas, and I've got some links. I think Kate is going to put a document through onto the Moodle site in a little while that will have some links to the different organisations and the way that they organised their TWalk. Basically, the concept was that over the period of an hour, groups would visit 5 locations and would discuss 5 topics. So they would visit a cafe or some other informal space and talk about the value of informal spaces. They would visit a computer lab and discuss how fit for purpose those labs are, looking at some of the different equipment that's available, the types of desks. They would then visit a social space and talk about the student's sense of belonging at that particular university or organisation, and then visit 2 different types of classrooms, a refurbished classroom and a technology enhanced classroom, and think about things like flexibility and the way that we rethink our teaching spaces. So that was the concept, and it was interesting seeing groups getting organised. Because they were doing it at lunchtime, that was 9:30 here for me, so it was completely dark by then, and I certainly wasn't going to be hanging around our campus at 9:30 to go for a walk. So because the topics had been presented earlier, I was able to go around our campus and take a few photos of specific things, and that enabled me to actually sit at home and share a little bit in what they were doing. Most of the TWalks happened in just small groups, and in each group there was one person who would be the dedicated leader and the person who would ask the questions, and then there would be other people who would be the designated tweeters and the photo takers. So there were no specific questions as such, rather it was a talking about ideas, and a number of questions were posed for each topic, but there was the expectation that groups would discuss those topics and then would tweet a group response from their location. So some of the interesting things that came up were looking at learning spaces and getting people to think about what's in your learning spaces. And then for me, what ideas can I take away from seeing other people's learning spaces? So an interesting one that was part of this learning space, I'll just find my link, was these particular desks here. I'll just pop a link in the chat. And these are actually pop-up desks hiding computers, which are really cool. There was also discussion on the social spaces and the sorts of things that we have around our campus to make things conducive to social learning. So interesting to look at this one with all its plant boxes. A lot of our campuses, I guess, tend to be concrete jungles. So having something to soften that can make things a little more pleasant for our students. There was talk about the beautiful spaces, large green spaces, and lots of people were sharing different views of their campus. And here's an image of the pop-up computers in one of those active classrooms. And of course, we're now putting those on our wish list. Who knows if that will ever eventuate. But yeah, lots of interesting things to see around lots of different campuses. I don't know how many campuses were involved, but I certainly saw contributions from people at, I'd say, at least half a dozen different places that I know of. And it just made me wonder whether that would be something that we might be interested in doing here as a little bit of a different way of sharing the work that we do and the place in which we do it. And tied in with that, September the 21st is 2017 Global Collaboration Day. So possibly a day where we could get ourselves together and do something collaborative. Over to you.
Wow, that was great, Sue. Nice, short and sweet. But some great ideas happening there. Could everybody join me in thanking Sue for her presentation, just in the chat, and think about some questions that you might have. If you do want to ask a question and prefer to use the mic, feel free. I'm just going to turn my mic off, so if you want to grab the mic, you can always grab it, or if you can also use the chat or put up your hand if you prefer to wait. I might ask one then, Sue. I guess, you've talked about learning. Oh, Oriel's got a question. Here we go. I'll let you go first, Oriel.
Okay, thanks, Sue. That's really interesting. I said facetiously it could be dangerous because I just pictured people with their head down over there as they were walking and trying to tweet at the same time. They could walk into trees or something. But I guess you haven't actually set one up, but how much effort goes again into setting up something like that? And do you need a captive group, or can you just send out a tweet, or how's it work?
I think setting one up would actually now be quite easy because all of the organisations who participated in this walk, and I notice on Twitter they've since done another one later in August, so only a couple of weeks ago, all of them have put out, or almost certainly have put out worksheets about the process that they use to plan it. They've put out question sheets with the suggested places to visit. Obviously, in your campus, you would, if I can just go back. So on the left-hand side, you've got 5 locations. So every campus would visit those 5 locations, but obviously that's going to be different for everybody. You would actually sit down and work out, well, if we've got more than one cafe, which one are we going to go to? Which computer lab? So the basis for it is there. Obviously, you could vary those locations as well, and I'm sure people could come up with other types of locations that could be visited. But for those 5, discussion questions have already been put out. The last of the links there that Kate's put, the one that's the totally rewired TWalk worksheet, that has sample questions in it to head up discussion. So that side of the planning of it would be fairly easy. You could simply copy what somebody else has done. In terms of getting a group, I think you would need to have a core group who you knew would want to participate, and again then just put it out through your organisational links to get people interested in seeing what's on other locations, and people who are interested to see what different ways different people do things.
I was just wondering if you could use it for different things too. Like, it would be a really nice orientational exercise for students if you sent them off in groups to explore and what they found on the campus, and shared what was really cool that somebody else hadn't seen, or how they could use it, or show other people the sort of things that they'd found. That would be a really nice way to use the same sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it's something that's very flexible, and as you say, you could use it for all sorts of things. Just putting in a little bit of thought as to what audience do you want, I guess, and what do you want to get out of it.
I guess, has it prompted you in terms of further collaborations or further networking opportunities?
A number of the people that I was responding to are people that I already communicate with quite a lot anyway. It certainly did bring me into contact with other people. And I think that's one of the great things about a Twitter network, is that you do get to virtually meet people with very different ideas and different locations. So I'm just seeing Sam's comment there. Yeah, I don't know if it's a platform that our students use, and under our current learning and teaching policies, there's really not much in there about using social media, and there are no social medias outside of our LMS that have been approved for teaching purposes. So we encourage, or a few of us here at CDU encourage staff to use social media for their own professional development. Getting it through then to students, obviously we need organisational approval for that.
I guess one question that I'm probably going to put to you, but also just to the wider group, is just around, I guess, what other opportunities might there be in, both of these talks have mentioned bringing the physical into the virtual, or the virtual into the physical. It's not just one or the other. And so I guess I'm thinking about, have other people thought of or experienced, or have ideas around ways that we can blend those two modes and get the most out of them, because I think that both of these hold affordances for connecting people in different ways where you may not always get to have those opportunities.
I think I look back on some of the things that I've done whilst I've been travelling, and have been able to connect learner groups overseas where I've been volunteering with my colleagues back here in Australia to both support the teaching that I'm doing and also then to support my students. So connecting overseas students who have got nothing to do with my colleagues here, but I know that my colleagues are in a position with knowledge that can help them. So making those connections.
That's a great idea. I think also the other thing that it reminds me of is, things like Pokemon Go and some of those other, virtual, there's been some great things around scavenger hunts that I've seen where, I guess interacting with applications, but in physical spaces, and whether there are affordances to maybe move, integrate several of those things to allow for a more interesting experience, which might be, I guess, beyond the resources of some of us, but no, it's a nice idea that can we look at ways to bring in whether that's apps or simple geo kind of geolocation. There's some of those kind of physical things you can place that will then trigger apps or trigger certain things when you're in range. But there's also, there's opportunities to connect with people rather than just connecting with a place or a thing. Does anybody else have any other questions for either of our speakers? Yes, beacons. Thanks, Victor.
I think it sounds like a fantastic idea. The 21st of September, I think we're scheduled to have our regular TELedvisors meetup chat kind of thing. So that works for me. It works for me. I'm into it.
How many different institutions have we got within this group, or within this group today even? Maybe if you can pop where you're working into the chat so we can see who's represented.
We're everywhere.
Wow, so that's, yeah, 7 or 8 locations at least.
So how do we do this then?
So who would be interested in doing this?
Sure.
Anybody?
It'd be good to think about, I guess, what topic we want to have. So, I mean, obviously we could keep a similar topic to what you demonstrated here, but it could be on anything. I mean, I guess the advantage is doing it around the physical space, but choosing a topic that might be relevant to this group.
Come on, Oriel, this could be your chance to get in there. Taking the easy way out, I think, for a first one, and if we were to do it on the 21st of September, which is only a week and a bit away, isn't it? It would probably be easier not to vary it too much. But it doesn't have to be that day. We can do something whenever we like.
I'll also
and
be.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to comment on yours. We could do it on another platform, or
Yes, there's lots of tools out there that allow us to chat synchronously these days. So if people prefer it to be private, there's that option. Maybe we can keep the discussion going in the Moodle discussion forum around the best platform to use and to gauge interest. But certainly I find Twitter really useful. I'll be at a conference that day. So if it was, I guess a set 1 hour maybe, at the end of the day or something that I could tie into tweeting about the conference, it might be useful. I'm doing the ePortfolio conference, so I'll probably be pretty crazy busy with that. But there could be a chance where even if we didn't do the TWalk, it could be a way to still work with Global Collaboration Day in some form, or, whether that's doing another virtually connecting session even. But I think there's definitely opportunities to definitely do a TWalk in future, whether it's on the 21st, and to definitely do something for Global Collaboration Day regardless. Or, if I can't make it to the TWalk on that day, I'll just, duck in and out, and other people could still do it anyway.
Cool. Well, it looks like there's a bit of interest, so let's keep the discussion going through the forum. Kate has put up the links, and the document with all of those links will be in the Moodle site shortly. So You can take a look at the site that has all the recommended places to visit and the questions, and see what you think. If that interests us, we can go with that. Otherwise, if anybody's got ideas for other types of locations, put that through. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Sue. Can I just get everybody to, if you've got any last questions and want to raise your hand and get one in now. Otherwise, can everybody please thank our both of our presenters, Sue and Victor, for their really interesting and inspiring talks around synchronous learning and teaching today.